All right. So what were you saying about the Hornet again?
So my point is I think they did kind of an okay job with the way that they balance it. Like it's not exactly overpowered. Like it has the same weapon capabilities that and the F7A, but we can see that it's obviously way more visible. It's not as stealthy, and it's more sluggish as we have seen in the fights that the Gladius can take on with it pretty damn well. So it's not exactly an overpowered ship. It's definitely not top tier. I think they kind of did an okay job where we can't necessarily say that they look. We released the OP ship. Everybody's gonna get it now. You know, it's a power creep. I don't think this necessarily applies to this ship. What do you
No,
think?
I don't think so either. I think let me actually pull up that clip that you were talking about. It was against that more of a decent pilot. We'll pull that one up, right?
Mhm.
Because we want to
He's
give
on me.
this ship a fair
Mhm.
shake, right?
Exactly. We already know that the Gladius versus the F7A is pretty damn good. Like in terms of their, you need a lot of skill with the F7A to defeat a Gladius, and you need a lot of skill with the Gladius to close the distance. So they're kind of in a good area, I feel like, where both ships have their place and they both have a chance at killing each other. If the Gladius gets successfully in, then usually the Gladius wins. But if the Gladius can't get in, then usually it gets shredded to bits by the F7A by the time it gets in.
Yeah. So I pulled up here that, and I'm showing people the reverse J hook right here, like I showed you tonight. But see, like just like I was telling you, your G meter acts like a stamina bar, right? So like the heavier the ship, and the more G's you're pulling, the faster your stamina is gonna air quote deplete, and like you just simply run out of maneuvers to do against these medium fighters. I mean, sorry, these light fighters, right? And when they get on top of you, like I'll get to the part where this dude just absolutely just gets on top of me and just absolutely just dumpsters my ass. So here it is right here. Like he pushes on top of me so fast, and I'm trying to pull on him, right? Reverse J hooking,
Mhm.
and he's like, nope, nope, I'm boosting on top of you. I'm not gonna let you do it. And then he's just dumping, right? I cannot outmaneuver that at all. It doesn't matter how hard I'm trying. I'm like literally out of boost trying to get away from this guy. You know, doing the chaff, all that shit. Just couldn't get away from it, right? So that's like one of the harder things. Like so, and then when it comes to kiting, like when you're distance fighting these guys, like when you're trying to like back strafe, to keep these light fighters in your nose arc, you know, this
Mhm.
thing is slow and it's heavy, so like you're having more momentum to cancel out. You just have all the odds stacked against you. Fighting light fighters in this fucking ship, right? I think that's the biggest thing that people need to learn now about the game is that like rotation matters, and then the ship that you're using, the third party, what can out rotate what is currently engaging your wingman, right? Is where the meta like currently is, in my opinion, right? Um, and then of course, like when it comes to the price of this ship, and when it comes to like where it sits in the tree. Like it has all the characteristics of a heavy fighter, right? But it doesn't have the power output of a heavy fighter, and it also doesn't have the capability of a heavy fighter, right? With this
Mhm.
ship, the turret's slave with the pilot because it has the size threes or whatever, right? The co-pilot can use it, but when you compare that functionality, that one feature set compared to the Scorpius or the Hurricane, now you've got a problem, right? Because now it's like you've shifted so much firepower onto the pilot responsibility in this ship in the Mark II Super Hornet, but it doesn't have the rotation to keep up with anything smaller than a medium fighter. So that hinders the ability for the co-pilot to even apply damage or even apply pressure to a light fighter if you're in the co-pilot seat. So what I'm trying, this is a long-winded way of me trying to get at an old argument that was in the past about heavy fighters, right? You know, you need the option to slave or not to slave the turrets. And in my opinion, based on what we've seen with this ship right here, it's more viable to have turret selections that enable the user of the ship, the pilot of the ship, the owner, to dictate if the heavy fighter's turret is either slaved or non-slaved by whatever it is, right? So you could have like size reductions on the other turrets for the other heavy fighters to make it to where it has similar DPS output to what this can do, right, with pilot controlled
Mhm.
weapons. And then you bring a turret in line with this ship to what they can do, and now all of a sudden people will want to be in the back of your Tomcat Mark II because it's cool now. Right now there's functionality to it. There's an ability for the co-pilot to fight back against light fighters, and that's another point I'm trying to get at. Right, is that if you have a ship like this, you're not supposed to be able to out rotate against light fighters in this ship, but having a turret gunner will increase the chances of you either surviving, if not winning the engagement, because you've got more angle and arc to play with while you're trying to maintain a vector on the light fighter. So now it turns more into a mini capital ship trying to keep turret arc on a light fighter in a ship like this, right? Versus trying to keep nose arc in a dueling stance. Does that make
Yeah.
any sense at all?
And that remains to be tested, I suppose. We definitely know that the F7A already struggles to keep up with Gladius. It can do it, but just barely. And this one, with the rotation and yaw pitch being less performance-wise than the F7A, it can't do that. So if you kind of want to replicate that, then yes, you will need to have a co-pilot to do that for you.
A co-pilot is the counter to light fighters in ships like this. That is what is the TLDR of what I'm trying to get at. And in order for people to be encouraged to get in these ships as co-pilots, there needs to be some type of parity functionality with the other heavy fighters in the tree, right? This ship needs to be classified as a heavy fighter, just like the goddamn glaive, and I will die on that fucking hill.
Well,
That is where I stand when it comes to this ship. All right, you know.
but what we did discuss before is that if that is the case, then this puts this ship again in a really bad position because why would you prefer this over a Hurricane? Why would you prefer this over a Scorpius?
You
Like
won't
that's a very
exactly. That's the problem, right? So again, so in order for people to want to prefer this over those ships, there needs to be a turret option to make it appealing to a turret gunner. That's essentially all I'm trying to get at. That's my thoughts on this ship ultimately, right?
or even this. Like, why would you want to have this piloted with a pilot and a co-pilot versus just having, let's say, two F7C Mark IIs, right?
Yeah, or even Ghost, right?
Hmm.
Or just two F7As, like like there's no reason not to have that versus this. You know what I'm saying? Because like I mean, obviously there's competency and skill level, with that, but at the same time, you're talking about four size fours and eight size threes, like what we were doing earlier tonight, right? Like if you time it right and you both get your noses on target, that is a lot of fucking damage. Like that'll eat any fucking fighter alive, right? Even a heavy fighter
Hmm.
would get deleted by that. So that's what makes Hornets so dangerous. You know,
That they're not to be ignored. Otherwise, if they sneak in, yeah, it's usually quickly over.
So yeah, if like for I'm not advocating for Hornets to be better than light fighters. I really like where we're going with this paradigm with positional dogfighting and distance fighting when it comes to flight styles and techniques to dealing with opposing ship variants that you're against, right? But
Hmm.
but when it comes to like the F7A, yeah, a really damn good Gradius pilot should be able to always outperform an F7A pilot or any medium fighter pilot for that matter. But when you introduce heavy fighters into the equation and they have a co pilot, a light fighter should fear the heavy fighter, right? A light fighter should see, like, oh, that is a heavy fighter with a gunner. That will fucking kick my dick in. I shouldn't engage that until I get my boyfriend who has a medium fighter to help me out with this. You know what I'm saying? So, like, we need that fear factor for this ship. Otherwise, it's an overglorified Corsair killer, freelancer killer. Like you would do nothing but grief, fucking cargo pilots in this ship. Otherwise, that's what I think about the Mark II Super Hornet, man. Ultimately, in its true
Yeah.
place in all this currently.
Still, just I can't figure out what to think of it. I mean, like it's nice to be able to have a turret gunner, and yeah, your turret gunner also has access to some missiles, so that's a nice feature as well.
Yeah,
But ultimately, it's just two size threes, right? That's it.
yeah, exactly. Like I would rather have, like I said, four size ones instead of missiles and two size threes, so that way people would be encouraged to get on it, and it would actually be a different team dynamic. Like it would be a natural like thing for that would be the light fighter hunter. You know what I'm saying? Like that thing would eat light fighters if it had the proper setups. But I just think that this whole like slave blade system that is probably never going to come into existence. Like this whole AI system. It's dumb, and we just need turrets that have either A or B option. You know.